Hello, and welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be checking... Of course. Alright. Hello and welcome to the stream, everyone. Today we're going to be checking out some of the projects that were submitted during the Handmade Network Wheel Reinvention Jam. This was a 1-week-long jam to experiment with rethinking everyday software that we use. Everyday software might be more poorly designed, slower, less reliable, or generally more frustrating than it seems like it should be, and this jam was about trying out new and experimental ideas and reimagining that software in order to better fit the user's needs. We had so many submissions and we couldn't get everyone on for a stream, but if you want to check out all of the submissions, then you should go to handmade.network/jam and go to the jam subforum from there. There you'll be able to find all the jam submissions and all the discussions that happened over the projects that people did for the jam. And so with that, I want to introduce the rest of the Handmade Network admin team. Let me make sure I don't... There we go. Okay. So
Hey.
This is Ben and Asaf. Hopefully the audio is coming through okay. But do you guys want to talk a little bit about the jam and what you guys saw and everything? And I know Ben, you participated, so yeah.
Well, first of all, let me just see if my voice is coming through on your stream. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this was a super exciting thing for us to be able to do. It's the second jam we've ever put on. Last year's jam was a huge success, but had a small number of participants, and I'm really pleased with how it went this year. We had, I forget how many submissions in total, somewhere like 20-ish or something, like meaningful, complete, like really interesting submissions to this thing. Had a ton of people following along. Had a lot of interesting ideas and across a wide variety of topics. So it was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was great. I was super happy with the turnout. It was awesome to see so many people actually participate and finish cool ideas. I mean, we had 10 people that we picked to come on the stream today, but there's plenty more. So for anybody who's curious, you should definitely go check out the forum. So with that being said, we want to move to our first jam participant who's going to be showing off their project. That's going to be Tom Thornton, who worked on a experimental file explorer comedically titled Near. For anybody who is unfamiliar, there's a popular console-based file explorer called FAR. So that's the joke. I was very happy about it. So I'm going to see if I can add Tom to this chat now. And we will see if we can check out Near. Okay.
And there he is.
Is everything going through okay?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep.
We can hear you.
Yeah, there we go. I muted Twitch, so...
Cool.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep, shouldn't have any issues. So yeah. So you made this Near Explorer thing, right? You got a demo ready to go for that?
Yeah, so it was me... Oh, wait, to my camera. So it was me and 2 other people, but I'm not really quite sure what happened, but I'm the one demoing it now, so... start sharing my screen.
Awesome. I will pull it up on this end.
Yeah. Can you see that? All right?
Yes. Looks like I'm getting some flickering artifacts on my end that I wasn't seeing. Oh, seems
no,
like
it's
it's
good.
resolved now. Okay, yeah. Yeah, take it away. Tell us about
Yeah,
Near.
so this is Near. It's like, as you said, it's the joke because of far, but also the main idea of it is that it sort of brings your files closer. So if I go into the source folder for the project itself, the idea is that you can rebase your files virtually without affecting the underlying structure. So if I select all of these files and hit F, it breaks apparently. So that was not a good demo. Um, there we go. If I do them individually, it seems to be nope breaking. Okay, this is not going great.
Sorry, it's a jam project. You know what can you do? Are you gonna reshare?
Yeah, 1 second. Let me try running a debug build because I haven't really used the like release build before, so perhaps it was something to do with that.
Okay, yeah, no problem. It is.
Uh,
It's a 1 week jam. You know, we can't ask for the best stability. The 5 nines.
No, this is expected and totally fine. Like, not a big deal at all.
Yeah.
uh, go there. So, uh, the idea is that I can move the files around like this and rebase them however I want. So, the only real transforms we've got in at the moment is like flattening, so I can flatten, or just dragging to move them wherever you want. Eventually, we would like to add like grouping, so you can make like folders that don't really exist. But as of now, the only like cool features that make it different from like a normal file manager is the flattening and what we're calling slicing, which is pretty much just searching, but it doesn't affect the structure. So all your directories will still remain intact. So I could be like, if I just search for .c, and then I can open up these directories and see all the C files. That's pretty much all that's interesting to show off. Other than that, it just works like a normal file manager, like got normal stuff. Uh, renaming. That should have renamed, or it probably broke. I don't really know. There we go. Yeah, there it.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So when you say flatten, that's taking an entire subdirectory, like an entire subtree of your directory structure, and it's effectively presenting every leaf node as in like a linear list. So there's no hierarchy to the actual results. You're just actually looking at like a list of files in a given subtree kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
It works on. Um, see if I can make this work now. So I can select all of these files, hit F, and then there we go. It works now in the debug build for some reason, and they all got flattened out into the parent directory. Well, not necessarily the parent, just whatever directory you're currently looking at the bottom,
I see.
like the root directory for the view. It it's not actually per directory. It works on a per file basis. So I could like unflatten these, I think. Oh no, that doesn't work. I didn't get around to adding that. But if I just press escape, it clears it.
Awesome.
Uh, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
So how do you think you might like use this day to day for different workflows, that kind of thing?
I mean, I don't. The idea came from my parents, sort of. So they like have a small business, and for each doing like architecture. So for each like job, they have like a regular hierarchy. So it's like each job will have like a plans folder and like a building regulations folder and stuff. So the idea is that you can flatten out those complicated hierarchies and then view like a different slice through them. So instead of viewing just all of the building regulations for one job, you could view all of the like you can approach it from the other angle. So you can go to no, that was the initial idea. Them just talking to me about how that would be useful in their work, and then uh, one thing at the moment is not like we didn't get too far because I feel that a lot of things were designed poorly, and it just has been a bit awkward trying to put different transformations in. So at the moment, the only thing that we've really got is virtually like moving a folder or a file. But eventually it would be nice to have some like different, more perhaps slightly more interesting stuff. Like in that regular structure, you could effectively present that as a table of like jobs along the top, and then building regulations, plans, whatever, like as the rows, and then each like cell in that table would be a subdirectory that you could go into. But that was none of that got done. But yeah,
Fascinating. Yeah, it does remind me of there's so obviously popular project in the community is 4Coder, and 4Coder when you open files in it, it will show you all the loaded files you have in a linear list, and that was always it was a simplification because it's not showing the directory of the hierarchy of the it's not showing the hierarchy of the directory structure anymore, but it's kind of like you're building your context of like which files am I caring about right now, and you kind of don't care about the hierarchy at that point. So it's kind of cool to see the same idea used in this way in like a full file explorer reinvention. So
yeah, I definitely noticed that similarity myself, like over the course of the week.
for sure,
I was like,
yeah,
I think what would be useful is to have something that's actually a bit more like a four-coder project, so you can save all the transformations you made into like a workspace or something, and then quickly like restore them for a particular task. Because at the moment, having to go through and select all the files and move them wherever you want, it's like too much of a too much work for it to actually be very useful at the moment, I think.
right,
But
right,
so I think
totally,
that having some kind of like a workspace system thing
yeah,
is definitely somewhere I'd like to go next.
awesome,
Yeah, and like now that you mentioned that kind of thing, I can imagine plenty of cases where I might like to just sort of have some slice appearing in my sort of workspace as like a little virtual folder for me to look through and more quickly access like I don't know, whatever particular little search or query that I wanted to do. I know that, I can imagine several different cases for work if I wanted to like do all the dialogues in this thing, or I wanted to do all the tests or all the whatever. Like it could be really useful to just have some quick views to pull those out. So and
Yeah,
I love
totally.
the table idea. I love that table idea so much.
I mean, you've pretty much got my parents to thank because they were the two kind of ideas that were initially like suggested by them when I was trying to come up for something to do for the jam. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we'll go to the next participant. But thank you so much for coming on the stream,
yeah,
Tom. It's awesome project. Very cool
thank
to
you.
see it live. Really appreciate you coming on the stream and finding the time. So yeah, awesome. Thank you. And now I think yeah I can just move you back now. Let's see. The transition's not as smooth. This is the first time we're doing this. So all right. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So now, next project that we are going to be taking a look at is Scroll, which is a non-text based typesetting editor developed by Samuel. So I will go ahead and try to get um, Samuel inside of this chat, and we will see. We'll check out Scroll. Hello, Samuel. Can you hear? Hey. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hey, uh, great. Yeah, so you worked on Scroll. Do you want to share
Yes.
it with us and show us the project? Let's see. Let me.
Okay. He's... Okay. Can you see that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Uh, the first of all, this project, the basic idea, the first of all, I think I like to say the original idea was not to make a typing set text editor. It was just to make some simple text editor to take some notes or something like that. The first idea was to use some kind of markdown language to edit and have a panel on the side so you can change stuff. But when I started to think about this idea, I realized that, well, text not be that great. We already have Markdown and some editors like that, so it was not really reinventing. So I thought of why not try to use a structure that's non-textual. So first of all, I'm gonna demo some things. I think it's best to open the sample file. Okay, this basically has all the features we could be able to implement. I did not make this project alone. I had help with 3 other friends help me. So basically, we have a normal editor, looks like a common word process, like Word or something like that, and we can just start to write something. I have some features like I can use colors, add colors, bold and italic. I can add stuff, and it's just like a normal word process. The idea is to make it very simple because with something, since we did like some more of a typesetting kind of thing, uh, I realized one problem with software like LaTeX is that it's not very intuitive. So the idea is to make a text editor like so to be able to be used by everyone, a very user-friendly project. So sorry, I'm just a little bit nervous. But
No, no worries. It's awesome. So when you say that it's non-textual, this is effectively like a node hierarchy that you're actually writing the
yes,
editor for.
yes, that's
Awesome.
right. I can show this. Each word is basically a struct, and the word struct have a pointer to the actual string, but has parameters like if it's bold, italic, and the color. One thing I did the bold and color by for the word instead of each letter, like other editors, because in my experience you always want to, for example, make a word bold. I never actually make like half the words one thing, one style, the other style. So it's easier to edit because you don't have to select. And another thing I intended to do compared to Word and other word process is to make very easily distinguishable. For example, I don't know if you try if you come up with this, but usually when I'm using a word processor, I change the color of something or start to edit in the middle of the of the file, and usually the layout broke. It's very easy to break the layout in this common word process. So I want to do something more fixed, more simple to use. The navigation is a little bit is actually not intuitive. Uh, I we come up with the navigation was to I think we can be improved. For example, we have these layers. This is the title of the chapter. I have a topic, a subtopic, and subtopic. This here hierarchy, and it's always a fixed depth. So, for example, uh, I can right now the cursor is the layer of the topic, and if I press Shift down, it goes to the layer of the subtopic, and I can navigate between them. For example, I can, if I want, I can, for example, split this paragraph. For example, I can add a new topic right here, or it's not really intuitive right now, but for example, you don't need to have a, for example, I'm gonna add here, I can have a topic right here, and, oh, okay, it crashed. Oh,
Happened.
no, it did not. Oh,
Like
okay.
we said. Oh, nice. Okay.
Okay, it did not. It's just
Yeah.
just the navigation was not. For example, you can see I have this top key, and one thing I did, you can have this other thing, this hierarchy. I can navigate using this. Uh, you can see you have the new topic and a empty subtopic and subtopic. So it just looks like you have just a topic. So the idea is to be fixed. This fixed structure, fixed depth, was just to simplify the file, because in that way it's very easy to load and save. And one other thing we was able to do is export, create a PDF. And for example, if I have it already open here, it's not perfect. Uh, we we got to this stage like 2 hours before submission. So
Nice.
but I did not do that. I have to say Enrique and the other guys who helped. They did most of the PDF work. We are not using any library for the PDF. It's just we basically writing the file direct. We just write a buffer of memory save as a file, and
That's
but
awesome.
it's not perfect. I can open using Chrome, but my PDF viewer doesn't open it, nor Firefox. So it kind of works, but
Nice.
you can you can generate a PDF. And for the future, the idea is just to, first of all, I need to build a more solid foundation, because we are using STL for text rendering, and for text rendering in general, and it's not at all optimized. Basically, I am I generating the fonts every frame. So for every word, just calling the SDL to generate the texture for the word and drawing it. So
Nice.
there's no cache. I think SDL has a cache on the CPU, but I send in the texture to the GPU every frame. So maybe I will replace with FreeType and OpenGL or something like that. I want to write my own TTF rasterize at some point, but I think that's a big task. So yeah, I researching that, I realized that TTF has some kind of assembly language script that it runs to hint the font. So
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories. I don't. I have no ambitions of writing a TTF rasterizer myself, but if you choose to go down that road, good luck.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but maybe in the future, but right now just using something like FreeType.
Right.
SDL uses FreeType as the backend, so it will look nice. Like I was able to get a good uh, text rendering, and then add some other features like I want to. Right now the layout is fixed, the way it's rendered. I want to add a layout editor like a text file, a latex. You can change the layout of how the data is rendered, but instead of just having a layout script and something like that, I want a visual editor for the layout. Uh, so you can change, for example, you can have the layout of a paper or anything you choose. That would be great. Right now, we don't have support for multiple fonts. That's a thing we need to add. And just improving the idea, one thing I realized after I have the basics, it was not hard to add new features. Uh, it was easier than I imagined. To be honest, I did not expect to have this result. I was expecting to not work at all, to be honest. So I was positive.
Well, this
it was
this
very
definitely
positive.
worked. I mean, like, this
Yeah,
is a very impressive submission, especially the PDF part. I mean, my God, that's
yeah,
so above and beyond for a jam project to do.
yeah,
That's
Yeah, yeah.
incredibly impressive.
yeah. That was not me. So
Yeah,
on
well, but
this, yeah, on the
regardless, very,
submit,
very
yes,
impressive.
yes,
Like, it's
uh,
amazing. And
yes,
there are a lot of design decisions that I really like about this thing, like the emphasis on words instead of on like, these just specific characters seems like way more
yeah,
practical for the the vast majority of situations. And I don't know if you have this implemented, but like, since you have the sort of tree of the structure along the right, what I find interesting about that is that it's different from other sort of text editors, even those that have common levels of headings and whatever, in that there is an actual hierarchy
yes,
there for you to play with, instead of it just being like, well, this is a heading and it's followed by things. Because it looks like, I don't know if you can do this now, but I can imagine just like reordering entire topics by just grabbing them
yes,
from the top and it pulling all of the content with it, instead of having to like try and select the entire
yeah.
thing, it and all of its.
That would be very easy to do
Yeah.
with the structure because you just need to change the order of the topic. You don't need to care about the words in the middle. Just swap the two and it will work
Yeah.
just fine.
So when it comes to the one thing, because having thought about node editors before, a challenge that always comes up inevitably when comparing with text editors is that inside of text editors you have a very simple coordinate system for like a cursor, for example. It's just like you could either do line and column or like offset in the file or whatever. This gets a little bit more complicated because you need to talk about like which subtree are they in and like which child at each
Yes,
level, and then you also have a textual position within that. So I'm curious about what your approach was to sort of where is the cursor, how does it move around, that kind of thing.
I had just let me see. I have this structure, basically it's the cursor. I have the the coordinates for the words, the chapter, topic, subtopic, paragraph, words, and character. And the level is each level you editing. If you editing a topic or if you editing a subtopic, because the structure you have, for example, each topic has a list of subtopics and so on. But the
Right.
topic also needs to have a list of words. That's the title. So the level says you say if you editing the actual file or the title for the structure, for example. And
Awesome. Yeah.
I just have to change that a lot of if else, to be honest, to say it's not very smart. It's very this is simple, but for example, I have basically one single file, one single. I have just a function draw editor, a function update editor, and some help function. For example, I just have just a giant function editing everything. It works well.
Awesome.
The-
Yeah, and for anybody who, I mean, people are mentioning it in chat, but this is really cool because it's also written in a handmade network project language, which is Odin. So that's like
Yes.
awesome. So custom PDF exporter, node editor, you guys got a lot done. This is super impressive. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So,
basically asked for vacation on my work to focus full time on the jam.
oh,
So
nice.
Awesome data.
basically,
It's very
yeah.
impressive. Thank you for showing this off.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up and move on to the next participant?
Just say thanks for the jam. It was awesome, awesome experience. It was great. Thank you
Awesome.
for the
Yeah.
handmade network in general. When I learned a lot from the forums, from the Discord, from everything. Like it's incredible to have something like that on the internet. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's great.
Great to hear. Thanks so much. And I'm gonna move you out, but yeah, thanks so much
Yeah.
again for coming on. I really appreciate it. All right. So that was Samuel with Scroll, and now we're gonna move on to Progfix, who worked on a structural analysis program. So I will get Progfix in here. Let's see if that worked. Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you. So
Mhm.
you worked on this structural analysis thing. Do you want to show it off and tell us about it?
Yes. I will share my screen.
Awesome. Let's see here.
So, to give a little bit of a context, if you have a bridge like this, as a civil engineer, you want to check if the beams that you chose are thick enough and stiff enough for the loads that are coming on the bridge. So you want to calculate the stresses in each beam, and for that if you do it with a commuter, commuters will calculate the displacements of all the nodes, and from that you can calculate the stresses in the beams. And to do that, you can use a professional software like this one. Okay, I'm lagging a little bit right now.
I'm assuming this is why you wanted to reinvent it.
No, I actually wanted to
You read my
reinvent
mind,
this
Ryan.
one.
Okay.
This is a simpler one, but I think you can also see that the graphics are glitching out.
Nice.
And yeah, the UI is too small, and yeah. But this program is simpler than the other one, and if you're a student and you work on a lot of problems and you wanna check them real quick, this is ideal. But because of the issues, I chose this to reinvent.
Nice.
And let me show my program. So you have this kind of inputs files where you put all the data in, and then you just take it and drop it in the app, and it will calculate the displacements of all the nodes. And
Awesome.
if you look at the terminal, you get the values. So here, for example, those are in meters, so the nodes are just moving very little, so less than a millimeter. So yeah.
Interesting.
Of course, you can see it. I didn't quite finish it. You can't draw beams or joints in the app itself. You have to use this text file. It was the next best thing I could finish, and it is hot reloading. So if I add something, it will update the results.
Oh, I see. So you added the support in the middle there now.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
You can change, I don't know, forces.
Out of curiosity, how quickly does it calculate all of the
Yeah,
displacements and
it's
stresses
instant.
and stuff? That's fantastic.
So if I press S, it will print out the system matrix, which is quite large. And you basically solve a system of linear equations of this size. And yeah, that's no problem for a modern computer.
Awesome. How precise? So I'm curious on the precision requirements. Can you just do this with regular like 64-bit floating point stuff, or like how precise do you need to get basically for it to be like you could build a bridge with this?
So I was quite surprised because I chose just floats for this, and it calculates the correct result from this. Of course,
Nice.
that's I think that's quite on the border of what's possible with just floats, because the numbers are getting really high. And yeah, if I do more stuff like this, I will switch to doubles.
I see. But that should be
There are
well
also,
within
sorry,
what you need. Sort of like doubles will easily be enough. Like you don't need to do any like
yeah,
arbitrary precision stuff. It's that makes sense.
yeah, I found some formulas. And you can actually calculate how precise your results will be with floats or doubles.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So is this
Well,
yet the kind of thing that you could use in day-to-day work, or what extra features and things would you need to add in order to make it more practical?
one important thing. This one is doing a analysis with 3 degrees of freedom, and my app does only 2 degrees of freedom.
Okay.
So you can see the beams, for example, they don't bend; they're stiff, and here you can see they bend, and that's why also
Okay.
the result looks a little bit different. So to use it in my day-to-day work, I need a way to input the model data more quickly, draw this kind of structure in the app itself, and yeah, and then do add one more degree of freedom calculation.
I see. So you don't want to build a bridge with this just yet, but maybe shortly.
I wouldn't build a bridge with just that anyway with this kind of app.
Yeah.
I would use
Of course.
a professional app.
Right.
This
Is
is
adding
just
another
for,
degree of freedom... Oh, I'm sorry. I think I interrupted.
just wanted to say this just for students, or if you have something simple and you want to check it real quick.
Nice.
So,
Does adding another degree of freedom change the math very much, or is it just adding more to your systems of equations?
so if I go to the next level of finite element analysis, I lost my terminal window. I hear this. First of all, it will add, so the matrix will be 1.5 times of this size.
I
Plus,
see.
I also have to split every beam into multiple beams, so the finite elements, which will multiply this matrix by the number of those elements again. So we will probably be in the tens of thousands or something like that.
Sure.
Wow.
Based on the characteristics of the program now, though, do you think you would still be able to maintain like the speed of calculations that you need to make it sort of interactive?
Yes, because
That's
this one
wonderful.
does all of this and it's also instant.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is really fun to look at, and like fun to see how well it's agreeing with some of the more professional tools, I guess, pre-existing tools that you have. I also have to say that I'm happy to see your RateLib project. So
Yep.
Yeah. There are also phone apps that do this kind of stuff, but they all have some kind of flaw. They're bad to input the data, or they don't work properly, or something like that. Yeah. And of course, I think the easiest way to model something like this is with mouse and keyboards and just on a desktop or something.
Totally.
So yeah. Yeah, that's all I can demo.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, I really appreciate it. That's awesome. It's also amazing like how far there's only 1 week jam and you already have like near not the full results as you've explained, but it's a lot of progress.
Yeah, I actually only worked 4 days on this, so I'm quite
Nice.
happy with progress.
Nice. That's awesome.
better still.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the stream.
Yeah, thanks for making the channel
Yeah.
and all the work you do.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you so much. All right. We will move on now, and I will move you back into the staging channel. So, awesome.
Bye.
All right. See you. Thanks again. Okay. I guess close stream. Okay, so that was the structural analysis program from ProgFix. Now we're going to move on to a version control. Version control. I don't actually know too much about it. So hopefully we'll learn. But
Yeah,
it's
this is an interesting project that is sort of larger in scope than just what they did for this Jam project. So we're gonna get some interesting background on that too.
yeah. So the title is a Git importer for Darke Files. So we'll learn exactly what that means. I will move. This is by ABEC in Discord. That's the only name I know them by. So I will move them in, and we will see if we can check out Darke here.
Hi.
Hey, can you hear us
Hello.
and see us okay?
Yes.
Awesome.
So
Okay,
let me share my screen.
perfect.
There we go. Yeah, so for the jam, I built actually not Dark, but a Git importer for Dark. Dark, or the full name is Darke Files, is basically my version of file synchronization and version control tool. I've worked on that for the last few months. And shortly before the jam started, I thought, well, it's getting usable enough that I want to try and move my Git repositories over. So that's what I built. In my introduction post, linked in the submission thread, I've talked a bit more about my ideas behind the system, and maybe we can get into that afterwards. But basically, software version control and file synchronization is basically the same thing. Software version control tools like Git or Subversion, and file synchronization, I mean tools like Dropbox, Google Drive, and so on. And I built a system to scale between these two extremes, basically in one repository. So let's get into demo. If you have a Git repository and want to do something with that, move that to some other thing, to some other system, you can use git's fast export command. You pass an --all and pipe that to a file. That'll get you the entirety of that Git repository in one text document. I'm not going to do that now because I already have this. This is this Darke CLI Git export file. Now, you can import this into Darke using the command Darke Files import -git, and then just type this file in there. There's a second way, which I'm going to demo right now, and that way is has a second option with the mail map. Let me just show you how this works. If you pass --generate mail map to import Git, and then as before, pass the Git fast export file, and then pipe this entire thing into a text document. It'll go through that file and generate this mail map. As you can see here, by the way, you can shorten Darke files with just DAF. Now, the use of the mail map is to bridge the gap between Darke and Git, basically, and especially when it comes to usernames. If you look at this thing, this here is your Git identity, a username, and an email address. And the first thing here is your Darke identity, which also looks like an email address and basically works the same way. It specifies a username and then a Darke server where you're hosting your code. Now, by default, this uses darke.invalid as the host, which has a bit of special handling in the code. But you would generally, if you're doing such an import, replace that with the server you're actually using. And let me do that right now. The server I'm using is on localhost and on port 8428. If your server responds on port 80 or port 443, the basic HTTP and HTTPS ports, you wouldn't need a port here. Now that I've edited this, I can actually do this import. We run import -git again. We tell it to use this mail map. and then, as before, pass in this export file. Now, this will take a few seconds. The repository I'm working on is my command line thing, the thing I'm actually using right now, which isn't that big. You can see it took 9 seconds. That's probably because I'm streaming. It normally takes like 2. 6 megabytes of raw data, 190 commits. So it's not a huge repository. If we now check out this directory I've put this into, we see the .dark folder works the same way as your .git folder, basically holds all the data in your repository. But we're obviously missing a working copy. So let's take a look at what's in here. We can use .refs to look at the references that exist in this repository. And references in Dark are basically the combination of branches and tags in Git. Just a way to make handling that stuff simpler. Now, main is the branch that is now a ref that I want to use. So let's just switch to that. And you can see we now have a bunch of files. And this is all the source code of the Dark CLI at the point in time where I created this Git export. We can take a look at this. We can check the logs, see the last 3 commits. As you can see, last 3 commits are 2 weeks old. That is because this is the point in time where I actually did this export for real. For the last 2 weeks, the Dark CLI has been version controlling itself, and it's worked quite well so far. Same way as Git, you also have a status, and in this case, obviously there are no changes. We wouldn't expect anything else here. If we check all the commands available, you'll also see these are often things that you would recognize from Git. Right now, I've decided to keep close enough to Git that people coming from Git would easily switch over. But I also want to expand in the other direction, the ease of use and so on. But generally, these people wouldn't be using a CLI anyway, so making the CLI really easy to use isn't high priority. Although the sync command, which is basically a pull, commit, push all in one, is one of the first things to do for that. Yeah, that's basically the import Git feature. Now let's take a few minutes to actually look at a few more things that this stuff can do.
Great. Yeah.
Up to now, you've seen me set that my identity in the mail map. That identity was for those commits it imported. So I also can or I also have to set my identity for this repository for the next commit and for the pushes I want to do. Called Dark config. In this case, I pass --repo. The same way as Git has a global config and a repository config, Dark is built in a similar way. This is the identity I want to set, and this is the thing I used previously. That's set. Now, before I do anything else, let me show you this. This is the Dark server I'm running locally here. As you can see, and if I hit refresh, then nothing changes. There are no repositories in here. So let's change that. If I go back to my repository and I run dav init, I would initialize a repository, but obviously this repository already exists. But I can do something else. I can pass a capital S to init, which will then also initialize the repository on the server. As you can see, it created a repository on the server. It picked up my username from the identity, and it picked up the repository name from the directory we're in. And if we refresh here, we can find this repository. Going in here, there's obviously nothing in there because I just initialized it. So let's push these changes. That's easy, dav push. It'll upload a few commits, upload a few directories, and then upload a few blobs. And that's that thing pushed. And if we refresh here, you can see all my files. If you go into a directory, you can browse this like you would normally. If you want to take a look at the file, you can also do that. This is actually the raw view. There isn't any pretty view yet, but that's coming at some point. And if we want to look at the history, you can see all those commits are imported. Yeah, that's, I think, everything I wanted to show. If you want to try this thing yourself, head to my submission thread. At the bottom, there's places to download this stuff. The 010 was, I definitely wanted to release it after the jam, so it might be a bit more rushed than I would normally like. So there might be a bit more bugs in there, but feel free to try it out. Ping me on Discord or wherever if you find bugs. And yeah, if you want a Mac version, come see me, and can probably get you a Mac version.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've got prepared for here. So questions.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for showing it to us. I'm curious. So, it's really impressive how much you've converged with sort of the general flow of Git functionality. I'm curious what's the long-term pitch and vision of the project? Is it to eventually go down that road of making Git more user-friendly and like easy, a better experience for actually managing what people tend to manage when they're working with source code history, or like what are your ambitions with the project and how are you going to take it from here?
Yeah. So I don't want to go down the route that that Git is doing. I want to create something like, for now it's usable like Git basically, because that's the project I started with, and that's where the power features, so to say, are. But I want to move in the other direction. I want to create simpler ways to use it. DAVSync is one of these that I've played with yet. Isn't 100% working, but then also, apart from a CLI, graphical user interfaces, and like the idea, or the thing I like to mention is, if you're doing a video game, you don't want your artist to have to learn Git or whatever. And for your artist, it should be as easy as a Dropbox sync or something like that. And ideally, they shouldn't even have to care about all of this stuff. So yes, I want to move away from the Git path. I've already simplified a bunch of stuff that Git isn't doing that well. References being one of them, identity handling being another, and generally just commands for the CLI are, in my opinion, a lot easier than what Git provides.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that you made the decision to consolidate branches and tags, because like the way that Git handles branches causes so much confusion in my experience. And I keep having to like explain to my coworkers that like that a branch is just like a floating tag, or a tag is just like, I like that decision. And sort of on that note, how closely does Dark hold to the sort of commit structure and like branching, I guess, structure that Git has? Because you're able to import a Git repo, but does it have the same general model where a commit has a parent commit, or in the case of a merge commit, like, multiple parent commits? Does it have the same sort of data model behind it like that?
Yeah, that's basically the same. Commits have parent commits, have merge parent commits. The thing that's different, which gave me a bunch of headaches, is that Dark actually handles directories properly. So like in Git, if you want to commit an empty directory, you need to put a file in there. For Dark, directories are just entities that can exist in the repository. But the commit structure is and same as Git, it's basically a Merkle tree of hashes building on top of each other. So yeah, the commit structure is basically the same. But I've also got a bunch of ideas to simplify this, to make it more usable in the non-power user, for the non-power user. And I in the end, I think I'll be a lot more loose with the structure. For example, allowing you to just drop old commits or stuff like that, to allow for more, just for more use cases.
Awesome. And is there a you mentioned like games and artists working with this earlier. One thing that I'm kind of a version control noob, so don't like that's all I need to say about that. But I'm curious about this difference because what I've noticed, like when you're storing artist files, for example, generally there's no good merge mechanism for, say, like multiple art assets. So generally what studios will do is they'll have like a checkout or check-in mechanism, where it's not the decentralized model that Git generally has. Is that is that extra work that you have to do on top of what the Git architecture provides, or like what's the plan there?
Yeah, Dark is decentralized right now, the same way as Git. For merging, I basically have no logic in there at all. You get both files and have to pick or merge yourself. But the ability to force users to use a central server and implement file locking or stuff like that might be in the future. Not
Awesome.
sure yet.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and showing this to us. Really appreciate it. It's very cool. I'm impressed with like how much it approximates the like all the capabilities of Git, and
I'm also impressed with how far along this seems to be already. So
yeah, very cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Cool. See you later. That's ABEC. I don't know how you want me to pronounce your name on the Discord. Is it ABEC or ABEC?
Yeah, and I normally say ABEC.
Okay. All right. Cool. AVEC. So, yeah, people should go check that out and try it out if they are inclined to do so. Awesome. Thank you, AVEC, and I will move you out of this channel now, and we will keep on moving.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks. Alrighty. Close that stream, and now we're going to move on to, let's see here, we have Sentient Coffee, who worked on a ChordPro file renderer. And from my understanding, this is like a guitar chord, lyrics, synchronized data for like learning guitar stuff. That's my understanding, but we will bring Sentient Coffee in here to tell us more about it. Hello. Hopefully you can...
My mic was muted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. Can you hear and see us okay?
Yep, I can see you guys okay. Hello.
Awesome. Hey.
Hello, I'm just making sure. I'm also like making sure everything is on Twitch okay. So.
Okay, nice. Yep. Great. Yeah, so do you want to show us? Yeah. Let's see here.
There we go. All right, so this is meant to be a mobile application of sorts. That's why I kind of have it off to the side in a weird aspect ratio. And this could be more of a desktop application if you really wanted it to be, but it's mainly targeted towards mobile. Since as you kind of mentioned, the idea for this application is to have is for like guitarists and really any kind of musician that kind of follows a lead sheet kind of format for their music, to have a repository of all their music all in one place that they can just take their tablet, take their phone, and just take it on the go, right? There's applications like this already on the App Store, on the Google Play Store, but a lot of them have like a lot of features that you pay for a lot of these applications, and they still have a lot of features that you need, and it's like, why can't you just put them in? They're that simple. So, yeah, this is a project I started working on, about a year ago. Kind of dropped it for a while because I'm in the middle of finishing school and everything. So, the jam was a good opportunity for me to pick it up again and sort of rebuild it again, just to make sure it was, because I'd made a lot of mistakes in the old one, so better to start fresh than to try to keep working on old stuff that I probably don't even remember. So yeah, the basic functionality here, is, you have a list of songs. You have basically a master song list that has basically all of the songs that you are uploading up to the application. They get shown off in this page right here. So very placeholder names. This is just for testing purposes. You would actually be able to click or tap on them, and it would show the title, the artist, and then all the lyrics. This is supposed to be formatted more nicely so that you see the like these notes here that are in brackets. Those chords are supposed to be on top of the lyrics, and then the lyrics nicely formatted on the bottom. But didn't really get to that in the week of the jam. So you would be able to have different things. These are all very placeholder right now. But yeah, that's this page. Then you would have a separate page that actually takes that song list and filters everything. It gives you a list of all the artists, so you can quickly find, oh, I want to play a song by this person. So you would have the list here, and you would be like, okay, and then it gives me a list of all the songs just by that person, and it goes into the same structure as before, right? And I also have like a list of categories. So if you wanted to, I'll show this off a bit in the actual editor, but if you can attach categories to different songs, so you can be like, oh, this is a pop song, this is a more classical song, this is a more upbeat EDM song, set random things that you can assign to things, and all those categories would show up individually in this other one. And again, the same as the artist, it would kind of show up. It gives you a list of all the songs under that category. Sorry. And then the other thing that I mainly worked on, there's this kind of sliding functionality here, where you can actually take a song and just delete it from the list if you don't want it anymore, or you needed to replace it with something else. And then you have like a kind of editor here as well. So this lets you edit the song title. So if I wanted to make it lowercase or whatever, if I like misspelled the artist name or something, you can add more categories here. So I can just say random 2 and then save it to here, and that's a new category. And this, if I were to save it here, you would see this show up here in the categories right away. You don't have to really refresh or do anything else like that. And you can also edit all the lyrics here in the typical ChordPro file format. This is the way you would see it. Again, I didn't really get to the actual rendering part in the actual song viewer itself, but that's mainly the idea here. You can also add new songs as well. So let's just say like a random song here, by me. I'm composing a song as we speak, and I'll just give it these random tags, and this is just some. Oh, I can type some things I type, right? And then I can save it, and it's right here. You have the lyrics, and it's right there. It's ready for you to go. And again, you would add your chords to it, and it would show up all nicely, nicely formatted there, so you can play along and have it, there for you.
Awesome. So, is this format, this ChordPro format, is it a textual format, and the contents of that text box you showed, like that's what it looks like in the file itself?
Yeah. So the ChordPro format is basically just a text file that has exactly what you see there, and then this application would take that format and just format it more nicely so that it kind of shows. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can find a good example of a lead sheet for the non-musicians out there. Just quickly on the internet. Yeah, something sort of like this, where you have like you have the lyrics down here. Most of them don't have like all the notes and stuff. It would be more like this, where you have like your lyrics down here, and then you have like these chords up here, nice and big, where you can actually what you're playing next, and you can kind of keep track of where you are. Doesn't necessarily have to have the staff and everything, but this is kind of the idea.
Awesome.
And then if you actually wanted to, you could also add the staff if you wanted to for vocal melodies and stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. That's super cool. It's like I'm impressed with how close you've approximated like a full app that you could actually go and use. So that's really awesome. What kind of features do you think that you'd want to keep extending this with in the future? Like, I don't know if you mentioned like actually tracking along, like if it knows the BPM or whatever, and then it can go on. I don't know if that's like within the scope of the project or whatever, or what you had plans for it, but I'm curious.
It definitely would be. There's, the other applications I've used before, they have a kind of auto scroll functionality. If the song gets really long, it's useful so that it can, so that it kind of scrolls on its own while you're playing. That the thing you mentioned about keeping track of the tempo and like the BPM would be really useful for that kind of feature as well. There should also be other features I want there. If you like double click on the actual song viewer itself, like other when it's already rendered and everything. If you want to make more space, it can take away the top scaffold, and if you have like a navigation bar down there, so you have like just the lyrics and just the chords that you can focus on. That would also be a nice feature. The ability to kind of like resize the actual text in the viewer itself. Because like sometimes you have your own preference for like to see more, but you have like songs that are 2 or 3 verses at most, or like 2 or 3 lines at most, and you just keep repeating on that, so you can just kind of make those bigger if you really wanted to. And then outside of that, other features I would want is I actually have a whole thing here. I'd actually want to make playlists. So if you were playing at a set, or you had a gig or something that you wanted to play at, and you wanted to bring this, you can just make your playlist of the songs that you're going to play there, and then you would just be able to kind of flip through them like a book, and just have them ready and available in just one place. Sort of kind of like the categories thing, except that you can in the sense that you can put more than one song into multiple playlists, kind of like you can with categories. But this would also allow you to kind of flip through them instead of having to go back out into the menu and go back into the new song that you want to do.
Awesome. Yeah. How close is this to something that I'm assuming you wrote this because you use lead sheets and you're like a musician yourself. So how close is this to like something usable for real?
Honestly, as far as usability, the only thing I would really need to implement for myself is the actual render, like the song viewer, make it render nicely, and then the playlist functionality. Those 2 things alone would make this very like already usable for me.
Awesome.
Categories is a huge thing that is missing in a lot of other applications, and just having this and being able to sort them into different things. Because a good example for me is I'm Catholic and I play in a lot of church choirs. It doesn't seem like you would need that many categories, but actually the kind of music we play tends to be very varied. So just sometimes you can use one song as an entrance hymn, or at the end, and you being able to put them in both those categories while still keeping playlists as a separate thing, that this is what I'm playing on this day.
Right.
Already a huge me. So
awesome. Yeah.
So
that's super cool.
like I said, that having the viewer and then the playlist, and this would already be something I can use for myself.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. I'm glad that the jam was a good opportunity to sort of make something that makes your actual real day-to-day life of like other things you do better. Because that's software is always annoying when it gets in the way of that, for sure. So
yeah. And actually, on that note, this submission actually like meets that goal of just like place something that frustrates you in real life, perhaps better than any other submission that we had. So it's really fun to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wanted to. I'd seen the jam thing for a while, like a couple months before when it was already announced, and I was having trouble picking something, programming related or like just randomly computer related, because all the stuff that I use I've pretty much hacked to the point where I've gotten used to it, or I can sort of work around it, and I'm not the type of person to really get angry at software unless it's being really really slow. But this is what, like, I thought of this afterward, and I was like, I should pick that up again.
Awesome.
This would be perfect.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing the project. It's really cool. Do you have any links or anything that you want to share with anyone to check it out, or?
Well, I did live streams of the development of this on Twitch, and
Nice.
yeah, so it should just be Sentient Coffee on Twitch, and also I uploaded the VODs on YouTube as well. They should both be linked also in the submission if
Yes, and I'll have
if
linked
it
the
was
submission post in the Twitch chat.
Yeah.
so you should be able to check those out there as well. As well as the GitHub repo if anyone wants to take a look at the code.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. That's a really cool project, and I'm glad it's like close to making your life better once you finish the renderer. So, very cool. Yeah. All right, we're gonna.
All right.
We will. I will move you back, and yeah. So thank you so much for sharing, and I will talk to you soon. All right. See ya. Okay. I'm getting a little bit better at the Discord flow. Let's see. So next we are moving on to Phil H., who worked on Intent, which is a new experiment relating to desktop UX and generally like the UI design of how you're managing workspaces and arranging windows on your computer. So I will go ahead and move Phil into here. Hello, Phil. Can you hear and hopefully see us?
Yeah. Hey.
Awesome. Hey, welcome.
Sorry, I missed your preamble. I don't know if you introduced the project or anything.
I did. I could have introduced it incorrectly. It's
okay.
So how about you take it away and tell us about it?
Yeah. So here, I'll just boot up the application and share my screen.
Right, this is called Intent, correct?
Yeah, so my project is called Intent. And you're seeing it all right?
It's frozen on my end, unfortunately. I
see my mouse.
I'm seeing it just fine. But
Perfect.
I guess it's only Ryan that matters. So, yeah, let's, Ryan, you should kick your stream here.
How do I,
can you do like stop watching? Click the like hang up button at the bottom and it'll do stop watching.
Oh.
Okay. Great.
It's loading. Stop watching.
Why is Ryan the only one who can't load this? That's a shame.
Oh,
could try
I see it. Okay.
All right, sweet.
We're good.
So, yeah, my project was about trying to reinvent how I interact with the desktop environment on a day-to-day basis, and like how I interact with my computer. Mainly just like stay on task, be focused, and present like a minimal environment to get the things done that I want to get done, and just bring mindfulness back to computing, because when you sit down, you have your whole world of your computer in front of you. You can open any application. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times I'll habitually just like open Discord and browse some channels first, or watch a YouTube video, but a lot of times that's unnecessary.
Before you get too much further, I actually think that Ryan's stream is not updating, because I'm seeing you move your mouse around, but I'm not seeing that come through on Twitch. So
all right.
I'm sorry. I wanted to touch it before it got into the rest of the demo.
Let me try a lower bandwidth. Doesn't need
Okay.
1080p. Let's do 720.
What am I paying Xfinity for? Okay. I see your mouse moving for now. So
Oh,
we'll
alright.
try that.
So yeah, the idea is this would be what's presented when you log in instead of explorer.exe, and there's these different configured sessions you can launch. So for example, you can launch a music session, and it'll hide all the active windows. I have some exemptions for like Discord and the programming editor. But yeah, so I hit that, it launches Spotify, Pandora, my music folder, and I can go back. It'll keep a running amount of time that I'm in this context. I can pause it. Now everything's hidden. Can resume it. Things pop back up.
Awesome.
Or I can, launch a different session and it will pause that one. It's like it didn't launch something. So I can pause and resume, or if I want to end it and kill all the applications, it'll do that. First, let's resume. Yeah, it'll show the list of active tasks, the startup tasks, Spotify, Pandora, and then all the visible windows as well. Because the way this works is just by managing what windows are open and hidden, and then resolving those open windows to executables when I end it. So when I end it, it walks that list of tasks and finds the open processes and shuts them down. And then another thing I added is I could set a timer on a session. So if I only want to do something for like, say, 30 minutes, it'll automatically shut it down. For the purposes of the demo, this is configured for seconds. So in about 5 seconds, you'll see Spotify shut down and everything else. And yeah, that was what I was able to accomplish in a week. I have a lot more ideas, and
Nice.
yeah,
That's looking super awesome. So this is it looked like Odin code as well. Is this micro UI as well?
Yeah, it's Odin and micro UI.
Awesome. That's super cool.
Pretty,
What kind of
pretty lightweight so far. It was only like, I don't know, 400 lines of code maybe once I remove all the empty spaces, 500.
Nice.
After the template. The template was an extra 300.
Okay.
And a lot of time was spent like figuring out the correct way to approach this, because there's like a kernel level concept of a desktop. So I was looking into doing that, but you can't share windows and applications with those. So I couldn't say like open Spotify in one of my sessions and then switch and still have the music playing. It would like shut everything down and swap. And then I was looking at the built-in Windows Virtual Desktop, but their API doesn't really expose anything useful. And then, yeah, so I just bit the bullet and like started managing these windows on their own, and it's working out pretty well.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's looking super nice. What direction are you going to keep working on this? And if so, like what direction are you going to push it in?
Yeah, I definitely will keep working on this. I want to explore like how restrictive each of these sessions should be. Maybe like, write some entries into the host file to block web pages in different contexts, or but also like, oh, maybe I need to watch a YouTube tutorial, so I could pause that restriction for like 10 minutes or something, which I haven't seen in other applications like this. And things like, something you could probably get pretty easily is just tracking where you're spending your time, because I have those timers already. I could write out a log, graph it really easily.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. I don't want you to write that actually, because then it would show me how much time I'm wasting. So
Oh yeah, me too.
That's awesome. Yeah.
The one technical, not super technical question, I guess, but when you pause a session, is that closing the windows or just like minimizing them, or what's it doing?
It's hiding them. I don't really know what that means from a Windows perspective, but
Okay.
it
So
doesn't
like if you had music
doesn't
playing,
show
would
up
it,
on the taskbar when you hide it.
So there's more that Windows can do that I am not
yeah,
aware
it's
That's
not
like-
the same as minimizing.
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
there's an API. Isn't it literally show window with a parameter of like hide or something? Like
Yeah.
So it's at about that level of because you can create windows and then you can show them independently, and it's like so there's some weird intermediate state where it's not visible to the user but it's still created, I guess. So
Yep.
it's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird Windows intricacies. Like I was trying to walk the list of all windows. There's a bunch of windows that are running in the background for processes that aren't visible to you, and then looking up the process that started that window, and doing that took like 400 milliseconds for 200 windows. So I just scrapped
Wow.
that, and like it's way faster to get the list of processes and then find the executable and then match that to my startup task list.
I see. So you don't you're not actually going through every possible window because there's just too many. The thing that's so you generally I would expect that you can't also go through all of the processes either because there's also too many of those these days. So I wonder if like and
Well,
is that what you're saying? You
was
just
a
filter?
lot faster.
Okay.
Because when you end a session, I only need to do that when I end a session. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, I could have it running on a separate thread to display all that info, but
That makes sense. So and then you just match that against like a known list of executables that are relevant to the task stuff or okay.
So here I can just show the code. Right now, the list of things I open are just in code. So like the
You might
music
need to
session.
Might need to share your screen again.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Let's see here. Okay, I see it.
Yeah, so for example, the music session, I just have a list of application strings, shortcuts, websites, and folders.
Nice.
And folders, I just got to find explorer.exe, websites, I find the browser instance, and then the application I can match on that executable. Shortcuts were a little complicated, so when I launch a shortcut, I had to figure out how to resolve that to the executable it links to, which mostly works, but then you have things like when you launch Discord, it actually runs update.exe, which then launches Discord. So things like that can't be handled cleanly.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe for
that's
the
something
best
I'll have to think about later.
Yeah, maybe for the best in a productivity application that Discord doesn't map super cleanly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I really like it. Totally keep posting updates because I need something like this. So
Will do. Yeah. Probably the thing holding me back from using it every day is just some UX to build these different sessions and work with them.
Totally.
I did find the registry entry to override explorer.exe on startup, so
nice.
I'll have to bite the bullet someday and squash all the bugs and see what happens.
Just make sure you have a session for regedit because otherwise,
Yeah, I can always get to task manager, so from there you can do run new task and
that's good.
start Explorer.
Nice.
But
that's awesome.
I did accidentally make every window visible at some point, which that was fun. I didn't know the task bar would have a scroll bar, but
nice.
It's possible.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. That's a really cool project.
Yeah. Thanks for putting on the jam. Had a great time.
Awesome. Yeah. Really appreciate you participating. And yeah, great. Thanks again. And I will, if you have, are you good? Nothing more to share? Want to share a link or anything or?
It's like ASAP is handling putting those in the stream chat. So
cool. Okay.
All
yeah.
Good. Look forward to meeting more people at the conference in a few weeks. So
yeah, totally.
See y'all there.
Yes. Very excited for that.
All right.
All right. Cool.
Take
it easy.
Thanks for coming on.
Oh.
So in case you weren't tracking with the chat, Ryan, this next one, you'll need to download a video that Martin just shared in stream guest chat.
Okay, cool.
Because we couldn't get audio to work with the Discord screen share, but we have a video demo of the program to play while we are chatting with him in the actual chat. So just want to make sure you have time to download that.
Yep. Okay.
And then you can pull him in.
Awesome. Okay. I seem to have downloaded it, and I will pull Martin in now. So this is Martin, who worked on an audio testbed application, and I can try to play it first. Let me try to open.
Oh.
By the way, Martin, can you hear us?
Yeah.
We are hearing you. Okay.
I
good.
can hear you. Okay.
Excellent.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't know how to full screen my video player. Just kidding. I just found out how. It's not great. Well, actually, no, that's okay. All right. Full screen. Okay, so is this showing up on stream okay?
I think it is. It looks like it is for me.
Okay, let me just make sure my mouse is moving and okay, awesome. I will.
My project for the jam was
Okay.
My project
Martin,
for
do you want
the
to
jam
give an
was a
introduction of
live
what this thing
program.
is before Ryan plays it, or I don't want you to be
Well,
drowned out by the audio.
Yeah, no. Maybe we just play the video and we can
Okay.
talk about it later.
Cool.
Environment for audio. I used a number of existing environments like Max MSP or Pure Data or Super Collider or C-Sound, to name a few. And pretty much all of these environments bought into the idea that you should present you with that high-level abstraction that is an audio node graph, where you have unit generators that are black boxes with inputs and outputs, and they will do some bit of processing. And you can connect these black boxes into a graph to describe your program. So obviously you are limited by the black boxes that are provided to you by the platform, and you are also restricted to describe your algorithm in a declarative data flow approach, which is okay for most DSP algorithms, but as soon as you will want to do some more imperative stuff, or if you want to deal with time, for example, you will have to kind of fight against the platform. So I wanted to experiment with something a little different, and I wanted to have a very minimal basic environment for programming audio synthesis and processing in C. The environment provides you, lets you choose input and output devices, and it provides you with input and output buffers, and it will call into a piece of code that you wrote that will do the processing in whatever style you want. And that piece of code will be hot reloaded. And I also wanted to add some very simple UI system to let the user tweak their parameters more easily. So here is how it looks. You have here the application. You can select input devices and output devices, and you can set sample rate, channel count, and the buffer size. You also have simple level meters for monitoring your input and output. And this area in the center is where we will put the user provided UI. So let me open a project real quick. And this project is just a simple oscillator that you can toggle on and off. And you can also set its volume and its frequency. So here is the code. To keep the demo short, I already wrote all the code, but I commented some section and I will activate them as we go. But for now, we only have one oscillator and one set of controls with on-off a gain and a frequency. And here is my DSP processing function. If we are just reloading, I initialize my oscillator and my controls into some persistent memory blocks that will persist across reloads. And here is my actual DSP loop. So I set the oscillator frequency, and if we are on, I will sample my oscillator and multiply its outputs by the gain. And here I just fill my output buffers with that sample value. And here is my UI function, and I just set some checkbox and some sliders. So let's say now I want to do something a little more interesting, and I want to modulate the frequency of my oscillator. So I will add another oscillator here with its own set of controls. I will initialize it, and in my DSP loop I will set the modulator frequency, and I will modulate the main oscillator with the outputs of my modulator. And let me just add some UI to tweak the modulation parameters. So now I can hit Command R to rebuild the project and reload seamlessly. So now we have our modulated oscillator, and I can change the modulation frequency and the modulation index. So let me add one last thing. Maybe I want to shape this continuous sound with some envelope. So I will add a curve and an envelope which will read from that curve. Here I initialize them and I set the envelope to read the curve in 2 seconds. And here in my DSP loop, I will sample my envelope and multiply the output sample by that value. And here in my UI function, I add a button, and if the button is clicked, I will trigger the envelope. And here I just do the curve UI. So let me reload that. So now I have to click the button to trigger my sound. And since it's a flat envelope, it's just a rectangular envelope. But I can make it into a more interesting shape, something like a more natural envelope. So maybe something like that. And I can trigger my sound. So hopefully it covers the main features of the environment, and it gives you an idea of the prototyping experience in that environment. So,
all right. So I think that's the whole video. Let's see if I can close this and get back to Discord gracefully. Okay, wow,
yeah.
Look at that.
That was a bit rough because I made it in a hurry, because we can't seem to have proper audio routing nowadays. But yeah, better than nothing.
That's awesome. So that just to make sure I understand like the hot reloading stuff, the idea there is that your core like audio engine, or like the main program is like running all the time, but then it's calling into presumably a DLL that's like the myDSP.c. Is it sort of like Handmade Hero style? Okay.
It's sort of Handmade Hero style, but I have to make something a little different, because if you do it Handmade Hero style, well, I can't recall exactly how he does it in Handmade Hero, but I think you have to close the audio because you are unloading the old DLL and reloading the new DLL. So you have some time where you don't have DSP functions, and it takes some time, and you have to stop the audio, do the reload, and restart the audio. Here, I do something to load the new DLL alongside with the old one, and inside the audio thread, it's just a pointer swap. So you can have reload, seamless reloading.
Nice. So there's no actual discontinuity in having a function available. It just waits until there's actually the new code available, in which case, once that's ready, you'll actually do a swap.
I prepare everything in the main thread, and I just set an atomic boolean, and the audio thread will just swap pointers between two audio buffers. So you can have, you can change some oscillator frequency, and it will actually continue from the same phase, and
nice.
it will not have any clicks. Or sometimes you have to have interruptions in the audio if you change your audio layout, your data layout, for example.
Yeah.
You have to kind of reload the persistent memory. But in many cases, you can change stuff, and the audio will not stop.
Fascinating. So with the so that makes sense. So you're actually solving for the idea of persistent memory structures changing, which generally originally in the Handmade Hero thing, if you did that, it would crash the program because you have all these structs, or you have all this persistent memory that's formatted in this way that the game expects. And then you recompile and you're actually we've changed this layout of the struct, then everything would have to change, and then it just dies. But I did see in your code there was grab some persistent memory that's attached to this tag or something. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have kind of a hash map, and you have memory blocks that are associated with some ID, and so you can add some data as you go. And sometimes, if you want to refactor and put it all in a struct, you will have to clear the persistent memory. But most of the time, you can just incrementally add some new named blocks, and it will work without crashing.
Wow, awesome. And even when you do introduce that struct, for example, you do have to do the clear, so you'll have a discontinuity in audio, but the application still keeps running, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool.
You could also just add that struct, and you can also add that struct in a completely new block and just copy stuff from the old block to the new block. So you wouldn't even have an interruption in that way. But you have to be careful when you do that live.
Right. Yeah,
but
totally.
you do also have the option to just clear all the IDs and all the persistent memory, so you can reset the states.
That's awesome. Okay, that's really cool. That's a really cool structure. Yeah.
And
So
actually,
what's...
I think I didn't do that, but you could also clear specific IDs. So if you just want to rebind some names to some new block of memory, you could do that. It could be useful, but I didn't have the use for this.
Yeah, makes sense. And is this primarily designed to... Are you trying to do musical stuff with it, or is it sound effects? It reminded me of there was this old program for generating sound effects that did these older sound effect generation things. Is it what's the goal of the project?
Well, I think in its current state, you can't really do live music because you would have to have a lot more building blocks to quickly sample things and do loops on sequence samples.
Right.
So here it's quite minimal, but it's more like a prototyping environment to do some cool effects, and then you would probably make them into a plugin or rewrite them. But it's just a nice environment to try things out.
That's really cool.
maybe I could also add some building blocks for doing some more musical and sequencing stuff. That could be useful, but the environment is very basic and minimal.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really awesome project. It's feels like it's in a very pure space, so you can do these like you can make the hot reloading thing just very seamless, and it works out super nicely. That's really cool.
Thanks.
I've got to think about. I've got to think about this after the stream is over, but I'm trying to think about how I can incorporate that with like other kinds of problem spaces. Like maybe this could solve that hot reloading thing. I don't know, but it's really cool. So really appreciate you sharing it.
It was kind of tricky to do it because the dynamic linker has some cache, and if you ask it to reload a new version of a file and you still have the old version loaded, it will actually give you the old version. So you can't load both versions side by side. So I have to do some dirty stuff like creating symlinks to trick the dynamic loader into thinking that it's a new file. But
oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Wow. It's so cool that you got it to work though. That's awesome. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the rest of the team or?
I think you hit all the questions that I wanted to ask.
Awesome. That's super cool. So thanks so much for sharing the project. That's so cool that you got that done during the jam. That's like I said, I'm thinking about the hot reloading stuff still, but
you have made Ryan really, really excited about this tech here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that was some nice thing to work on.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much. And I guess we'll move on here. We have a few more to get to. Thanks again, Martin. It was awesome having you on.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for doing the jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for organizing.
Yeah, of course.
See you.
All right, bye. See you. Okay. So I'm looking here, and the next person appears to be Ben, actually, who also participated in the jam. And Ben worked on I'll let him. I'll let him.
So let me share my screen first, just to get this going. I suppose because let me share the entire just the jam project. There we go.
Okay.
Do you see you're not going to see my mouse right now. Are you seeing that?
I don't see your mouse, no.
Great. We're switching to a different window. Hang on. We'll just do the whole screen. It'll be fine. Okay. So the project that I and my friend Ejectiflex worked on for the jam here was I'm not even sure what term to use exactly, but Database Explorer is the best that I have right now. So the idea is that the core frustration, I guess, that led to us making this is that relational databases are super powerful, can do a lot of things, answer a lot of questions, but the actual interface to them, SQL and SQL queries, is super cumbersome, and it's super difficult to put together a query that you're confident in. It's hard to see. You can't really see the data as you're constructing a query, so you have to just hold a lot in your head about what sort of things are available for you to manipulate, sort of to filter on, whatever it might be. And the core idea is that you could actually query the data in a database in more of a data flow sort of way, where you can preview the data as you're going along, and that this can actually work with any existing SQL database, so that you can sort of take this more friendly representation and actually use it directly with the databases that you're already familiar with and using. So for the demo here, we're using SQLite. You can see we have a bunch of different things here. You get a typical sort of node editor situation here, where you can wire things together. If you're familiar with something like Blender's Compositor or with a lot of visual shader editors, that kind of thing, you can actually just sort of preview the results at any point. And this is one of the core interesting things about this project, I think, is like, you can see here we're using a sample database that has actors and films. It's like a database for a video rental store. So it has all sorts of data about the inventory of the shop and all the films and stuff. You can just sort of preview the contents of each table here. If we wanted to, for example, just get all the information about actors, that's a fine default. So we can see that right here. We could then wire that into filter here and say, I only want actors whose first name starts with A. Now, right now, we don't have any expression editing, so you just sort of write SQL text, but this is something that would be expanded on in the future. It's just a limitation for scope. And now you can see down here that we have, in fact, limited it only to actors whose first name starts with A. And you can see actually the SQL that's being generated for each node. When you just go with the table, you see select star from actor. When you go with the filter, you see select star from actor where first name is like a %. We may decide that we don't care about the actor ID in last update, so we could go to pick columns now and actually just pick first name and last name. And now our resulting table has only those two columns, and the resulting SQL is as you would expect, like so. The thing that is nice about this, first of all, you can like preview the data any step of the way. But one thing that a data flow node sort of thing like this allows you to do is you can actually kind of like branch off to do other queries without losing the context of what you were already doing. So for instance, I could just do last name like A as well. And we can see that data right here. And we can just go back and forth between these quite easily, which is really helpful if you're trying to just explore the data that you're working with. If you were doing this in SQL, you'd have to perhaps have a bunch of subqueries that you're like commenting and uncommenting. If you're lucky, you have common table expressions, but you might not. And it's really, really bulky. And you might, at some point in the process go like, oh, actually, I did want the actor ID, and then I have to go rewrite my query to get back to that. But in this flow, you can sort of like see the data filtering down as you go. And in fact, you can even drop in a sort of persistent preview at various points to see the results of a query right in line on your graph so that, it may not be, hold on. There are some bugs related to when things update. I do not know why this preview isn't showing me anything. That's a shame. Oh well. I inadvertently gave away one of the features that I was excited to talk about, which is the snapping. So like one little thing that we found is that it's really common to like combine a bunch of these things together. And if you've ever used node graph systems before, you know how painful it is to manage just this spaghetti of nodes and expressions and that kind of thing. If you have, sort of the situation we had with like, here's a common query that we're like, that we just sort of like want to use as a building block for other things, we can actually just snap those nodes together. The structure here is exactly the same, but now they are treated together as a unit. And you have just sort of like this nice chunk that you can use. And in fact, you can even drop a preview onto that if you want, and it doesn't affect the output. It's just sort of a pass through. So you can basically just sort of see like, okay, here's my table. I've filtered it. I've sorted it just the way I want. I can even see what it is. And then from there, I could go ahead to say like, let's count the number of distinct first names that there are in this set. There are 9 distinct first names in this set, apparently.
Cool.
Let's see. If I wanted to group by, actually, no, let's see what would be a fun query. Let's do the count by, let's group by first name and do the count of first name. So now we can see all of the, how many actors are there named Adam, how many actors are there named Al, Alan, Albert, whatever. So you can like take this building block and sort of slice it this way, or, you could slice it another way if you wanted. Like I don't have another example prepared. I guess we could, do the same thing on last name. Although in this case, I think that they're all unique. I guess they are all unique. What do you know? These things can be, one thing that is also very powerful about this is that you can actually chain these things together and get the experience of using subqueries without having to really think about at what point it needs to be a separate subquery. So for example, maybe we only want to find actors who share names with other actors. Well, that would be where this second column here is greater than 1, and we can just do that. We can drop in a filter. We can just do where, let's see, I have to give this column an alias. I'll do like num actors or something, and we'll do num actors greater than 1. And now we have filtered it down only to those. And you can see that the generated SQL over here now has broken this first part out into a subquery and then actually done the group by, and in fact a having in this case, without us really having to think about it. It's actually quite freeing because at every step of the way, you're just seeing a table, right? Every SQL query produces a table. And you can just freely move that table along into the next part of your query without having to worry about whether it makes a subquery or not. You can just do this kind of thing freely. There's also, I added some other stuff that you can sort of imagine extending this with going forward. We could do like, well, why isn't this working? Hold on. No, num actors and first name. There we go. I had my axes backwards. You can imagine as you're sort of exploring a database, adding charts and visualizations of data that you're querying. And this is all just something that you can like have in front of you in real time as you're working. And just as you work, build up an ever growing sort of just workspace exploring all the data that you have to work with. And without ever having to get mired down in the semantics of SQL and the syntax of it, especially because my goodness, SQL is weird. So, I mean, this is just the beginning of something that could go in a lot of different directions. I mean, we did add joins, so we can do something like if we wanted to see all of the like films that a certain actor was in, right? Like maybe we want to count how many films each actor is in. We could do a join that way. So we would need table and film. We can see sort of what these look like. All of these films are randomly generated for this test database, and there are some real gems in here. Some real good actors too. Johnny Lollobrigida? Let's see what movies Johnny was in. So that would be, and this is where it's nice to be able to see the data as you're working, because we can just see, so that is actor ID 5. So we'll just drop in a filter on that. Actor ID is 5, and sure enough, we restricted it just down to that. I mean, you wouldn't have to do this with a filter exactly. You could do this other ways, but you can also do it this way, and it works. The film actor table is the join between actor ID and film ID. We can pull all of these together into this join. This is something that like the UI for this is essentially just for the jam. It's, you could imagine the experience being nicer than this, more intuitive than this, instead of being stuck in kind of the terminology SQL uses, but for now, this is what we have. We do automatically alias the tables for you so that it's at least easier to do things like this, nice little concise queries. You can rename the alias for the table if you want, but we give you nice ones to work with anyway. So we can join across these, and now we've got everything together. This is too many columns, so I can just restrict it to only the ones I care about. So let's see. Actor ID, first name, last name, film ID, film title, and film description, we'll say. And some of these have their table names in them too, so we could just like alias them back out again. And so now we have a nice little concise table for us to use as a building block for future queries. So now you can imagine, let's do that count again. So we will aggregate this where we're counting the number of actors grouped, or no, let's see, count the number of film IDs when we group by actor ID. That's right, because we had filtered it down to only Johnny here. So we're seeing that he was in 29 films. I suppose if we wanted to see the whole thing, we could just sort of break off that filter, and now we are seeing the film counts for everybody, and we can include first name and last name here if we want to see all the full names. So yeah, I mean, like that, you see the general way that this thing works. You can see that like we were able to pretty incrementally build up to what turns out to be a pretty roast SQL query that is already kind of at the boundaries of what I would personally want to write, and it flows really well. My personal feeling is that while you lose some, power user sort of convenience by having this visual form, you gain a lot back by having a more flexible way to work with the data. So that's it. That's my demo. Curious, if people have questions, what they think.
Yeah, mute here. I'm blown away. That is so cool. I'm like,
thank you.
Ginger Bill in the chat was I wasn't muted for the stream, but I was muted in Discord, and I was gasping at certain moments. That was so cool. There's something.
I'm looking at chat too. BYP, you shouldn't have to learn SQL. That's the point.
Yeah, there's something so important and magical about being able to see like at each step in an operation, what is everything that implies about a certain, like in this case, it breaks down super cleanly because you have SQL queries querying over this massive data set. So it's like you see everything all the time. It's super nice.
And it was an interesting design choice to try and like find nodes that allowed us to hold to those constraints. Like we really wanted it to be the case that you can preview the data at every step of the way. Every node is the root of a valid query. There isn't a situation where you need to have one node with another node. We don't want like different types to be bashing into each other and giving us trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing multiple people ask if we can convert a SQL query into a graph. And in principle, I think so. Yes, absolutely not right now. And I mean, right now you can't even undo. It's a jam project. So, but yeah, I mean, I think in principle it would be probably, I don't know, it would be an interesting thing to experiment with because it would essentially form, I think, just a chain, and we could maybe be opinionated about what things we snap together and that kind of thing. But we've got a ton more ideas for features that we can pull into this. For example, you could like essentially make these things are a little bit like macros in the way that you could use them, or views. So we were thinking you could add like essentially a sort of terminal version of this where instead of one output it has one input, and you can define like, here is my table, my view named whatever, and then that's just something that you can have in your palette to just drop in there, so that then that's just like, if we had, for example, something like this, which we consider to be, this is a good like base table for me to be working with, right? It's just like actors, films, and all that stuff. We might want to base a ton of stuff off that and not have to wire back to the same point all the time. So that could be just sort of like I guess what you call it, a function, kind of, a macro, kind of, I don't know, more stuff that you could extend it with.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see your sort of different approaches in, as you mentioned, there's like this spaghetti problem that always comes up with node graphs, and I think just the snapping, which
I'm very pleased with the snapping.
I don't know why I haven't seen that before, but it's so obvious in retrospect. Like it's chaining the operations in a way that doesn't lead to lots of disorganization. So it's really...
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way as soon as the idea, we were just discussing what kind of UI do we want, Node graphs are cool, but they have all these like spaghetti problems, and block things are annoying because then they like just, and then it's like, well, wait a minute. Somehow you just like snap parts of your node graph together and it works great. Now, I think it works better Ginger Bill identified it perfectly. One input, one output. So there are many situations where the chaining doesn't make sense. But
anyway. That's fascinating.
What's the name of the project, blog post, or website? SQL Jam. It has no name. But there's the Handmade Network submission post. It's on GitHub right now. So it's in a pretty rough state. It only works with SQLite. It can't save anything. But you can copy the SQL query out, and it should work. So Snappy QL. Oh, do I want QL in the name though? I don't know. It's not really a query language, you know? Like, whatever.
Very cool.
I think I've taken up enough time. I'm glad that people seem to like it. So
I'm super like, that's so cool. That is such a cool. Yeah. I'm super excited about this. It's so awesome actually. So let me close that stream. Okay. Super awesome. Very cool project, Ben. I really like it. And now we can move on to the last couple that we have. So that was Ben's Database Explorer, or SQL Jam, as he titled it. Now we can move on to a video that was sent in by Ilya, or I'm not going to try harder than that to pronounce it correctly. It's a video of this project which was worked on during the jam, but is also a longer term project as well, which is a Twitter thread graph explorer. So it's experimenting with like sort of graph UIs. And I have a video that I should be able to pull up here. And we will do the same thing we did with the last one. See if it works.
Hi.
Okay. So here's that. Control Enter. Goes into full screen. And...
Guys, my name is Ilya, and the wheel I tried to reinvent is Twitter, or at least some aspects of it. Some time ago, I stumbled upon this guy who posts a lot of threads, and they link to more threads, that they link to other threads, and this whole network of threads that's hard to explore in the official app without getting lost. So over several months, I built my own web app to help to explore it. It looks just like Twitter. It supports backlinks. You can scroll around. It supports forward links as well. Scroll around a bit more. You can go as many levels deep as you want. And it also has a button to send you to a random thread in the network. So it's a nice little web app, but there is one more twist to it. If we open DevTools, we see that it's actually a full screen WebGL canvas. And if we go to the network tab, it's actually a C++ application compiled to WebAssembly, which allows it to take just tens of kilobytes as opposed to megabytes of JavaScript that Twitter would send to you. And this file over here, which takes 5 megabytes, is the data blob with the entire network in it, with 2,000 threads and 18,000 tweets. But there is one thing that I still wasn't very happy in this app, which is you cannot open multiple threads on the same level. So let's say if we read this thread, we come back, we want to read another thread, it closes the previous one. So you cannot always keep track of what you read. But addressing this would turn it into the whole graph layouting problem, which is a well-known problem. So this is where the wheel reinvention jam comes in. The graph layouting software like GraphViz and YAD has been around for a long time, but no matter which algorithm I tried, it just didn't give good results for my application, which I could use. So I decided to reinvent a little bit of graph layouting here. Here's the result. We can open a thread. We can open another thread, which makes the first one move down, but it doesn't disappear. If we zoom out a little bit and we open the third thread, we can see that it routes the arrows to avoid overlaps. And it also makes the whole arrow, the total arrows, as short as possible in terms of least squares. It works multiple levels deep as well. So if we, let's say, read this thread, we open this child, and now we want to open this child. We see that this one is in the way. But when we open, it just scoots up, even though it's not a direct child of the thread, and it's more like a nephew. So what happened here is it saw the conflict, and it made more space between the parents. If we try that one more level deep, and we try this one, and we try this one, it sees the conflict one more time, makes space between parents, and it makes space all the way between grandparents as well. So it finds an optimal arrangement for a graph on every click. But it always makes sure that the thread that you click on, it stays in place. So here was my attempt at reinventing a piece of Twitter. Then during the Wheel Reinvention Jam, to reinvent just a little bit of graph layouting as well. It's out there on the web. You can check it out at vis-a-vis GitHub.io. And thank you. Hi guys.
All right. See if I can. Am I audible again? Hopefully things are okay.
Yep, I believe so.
Okay, cool. That was really impressive. I really liked. When I first took a look at it, it was like the framing of Twitter made me nervous, but it's actually a super interesting problem. So that was super interesting, and the fact that he's, I don't know, lots of good decisions. I like the decision to keep the thread that you clicked on in place, like so many applications fail to do.
Yeah, I mean, I like that it like avoids solving an extremely difficult general problem by making some smart and pragmatic decisions about the way that you actually want to use this thing. And
Yeah.
it seems like the kind of problem that could have applications in a lot of different places, right? He's using Twitter threads as an example, but there are so many applications that may want to view sort of like a web of data in some user-friendly way, and like most of the things I've seen from it are for that kind of thing are kind of wonky. So
Right. Yeah, it's a super difficult thing to visualize well, and it turns out, yeah, when you take pragmatic assumptions, you can get it done pretty easily. So, or I don't know how easy it was, to be fair, but it's it seems much easier than the general problem that people try to solve. So it's really cool. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we don't have Ilya to talk to. He couldn't make it, which is why I sent in the video. But if people want to, let me make sure I get all the links right. If people want to check it out, as he mentioned in the video, there's visa-viz.github.io if you want to check out the application itself. And this is on Handmade Network. Ilya is under the username ILIDEMI, so Illydemi is how I would pronounce that, but that doesn't matter because I probably didn't pronounce it right. So, all right, yeah. So I don't know if he's watching right now, but thank you so much for the submission. It was a really cool project, and I was super happy to see it in the jam. So, thank you so much for sending in the video and participating. I don't believe he is here, Abner. So, okay, now we have one last thing to show. This is also somebody who couldn't make it to the stream due to time zone concerns. This is Nathan, or Nakst, who works on the Handmade Network project Essence, which is an operating system. And he sent me a build of his thing, of his submission to the jam, and let me find exactly where it is. Run. So, okay, so hopefully this comes up on the screen okay.
I see it.
Awesome. Okay, so he also sent me some instructions so I can learn how to use it in real time here. We'll see how it goes. So my understanding of this program is that it is an editor for, if people aren't familiar on stream, Essence is an amazingly good-looking custom handmade operating system, and this whole thing is like a style editor for it, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, or Asaf, if I'm like getting things wrong. But let me check out the controls here. So actually, let me just download this text file and open it up here so people on stream can see if I'm doing something incorrectly. So, one thing that's kind of interesting about this right off the bat is that this is all handmade UI. I'm pretty sure this is using Nathan's custom UI library, which is called Luigi, I believe, which is pretty awesome. So let's see. We can middle click to drag and pan around. It looks like there's there's like a DAG I'm exploring here. I can click an object to inspect it, and that gives me all of this stuff. And I can drag it around.
My understanding of this is that he can use this to like build a collection of styles for something that all like,
Right,
use some consistent coloring rules and that kind of thing to like design a coherent set of colors or set of styles in general really easily.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, he's saying it's a little bit like Figma, but instead of just prototyping, it directly exports data for use by the UI library. That's pretty cool. So I'm assuming that's the data file that I loaded in at the beginning. He sent me a data file too, which is I think what this is. So the style determines width, height, text style, color, and typeface.
Yeah, I mean, we can already see how like the button, like the collection of button styles applies to everything, right? Like where we've got these colors defined off to the side, and then like they're all combining together into the appearance of a button, including the like various interactive states of the button as well. So
Yeah. So I'm trying to see like, I think this might be the preview or something. Like this is what the button turns out to look like.
yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Okay, yeah. So let's see. It's giving me... So button style, do we see where that is? Has its appearance linked to the button appearance object. Layer group which links to the button shadow and hovered layers. The hovered layer inherits from the button box layer. Has an override to fill paint when the primary state is hovered. Ah, okay.
So can you click on that? I want to see then. So primary state is underneath the inherit from button box there.
I see. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, okay, so try changing the base color and watch them update. Okay. Okay, I think I get it. Yeah, okay, that's what I was predicting that. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. So it applies like a transform to the color at some point or something like that.
I see, there's a shadow thing there, so he's like doing an offset and some other related stuff. I guess I'm sure a lot of this relates specifically to the Essence UI.
Right, right.
And whatever is available there, but
that's super cool. And then if I were to go here and switch the view, and presumably I could go back here. So there's a button style. I'm not sure if I can change the fact that there's a border or something. Maybe that's... Oh, well, there is a border color here, so I could do...
You can see that it's modifying the base color. It's like it's hue shifting slightly and darkening it by the looks of things. So
cool,
you could make
right.
the border less dark by adjusting that.
Yeah, there we go. That's really cool.
I really like to see this kind of thing because like I've had a lot of respect for Nakst's like graphic design sense for a long time, and it's really interesting to see how he approaches these design questions when he's like building his own set of tools entirely from scratch, right? Like this isn't something that you see a lot of the time, I think, because most designers don't have the technical chops to put together something like this that reflects their thought process, and the people building the technical tools for these things often don't have the design sense to really like fully achieve what designers would like. And certainly I imagine it varies a lot from person to person as well. So I think that this is a really cool take on this issue of styling. You can imagine this, I think, taking a lot of, like, replacing a lot of the stuff that you might do with style sheets and whatever other systems you have in other sort of UI and styling systems in a
Yeah.
much more user-friendly, visual, cohesive way.
Totally. Yeah, I saw that I'm covering you guys up. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
I only have so much screen real estate here. Yeah, that is super
Now
awesome.
that you mention it, now we're just like, now you're just playing favorites.
Well, I can't. I don't know. I can't just cover up. I have to cover up someone, and I'm choosing to do myself whenever I'm, whenever I'm like. All right. Well, I'll have to cover you guys up again while I keep playing with this. I want to see if like I could keep playing with this for a long time. So
Yeah.
if this gets annoying, let me know. So auto corners. I'm not sure exactly what that means.
So much stuff here. I wish Nakst could be here to actually like demo this live. It's a shame that it didn't work out, but I'm still very happy to see this tool and see his approach to these problems.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I wonder, I don't know if it's possible to like see a preview of the button that you can actually click. Looks like I can add, oh, you can even add comments.
Look at that. Go to switch view. I wonder if there's any like, is there any way to like, no, I don't know. I think that you can preview all the different states by clicking on those different things.
Right,
but perhaps
right.
it's not. Well, whatever.
So that's what happens when you hover. If you press, nothing happens, I guess, because I probably screwed up the button. Inactive. Okay, yeah.
I think you did actually, yes.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, because probably this is important.
You don't say.
Let's do that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yes, Asaf, thank you for linking Nakst GUI library, because it is interesting within the handmade sort of sphere, because it is retained mode. It is a really pleasant ergonomic take on retained mode graphics instead of the immediate mode that is so popular among a lot of the developers in the community.
Yep.
And he does great work with it, and it's really, really nice to see. So.
Totally. Yeah. Let me make sure I'm not missing more stuff that is in here. So did that. You can apply overrides. You can choose how to only apply overrides when a specific state is active. I see. Yeah. So symbols and figures.
I wish I was more familiar with Figma and Sketch to know how this iterates on design tool ideas.
Yeah,
alas.
for sure. Yep, I'm too much of a noob there to really know as well. But it's pretty awesome. I really like it, and it's solving a practical problem.
Sorry,
solving
I was referring to Abner in chat.
No, you're good. It's solving a practical problem, which is really cool. Oh, I just saved that. I didn't want to save that.
Excellent.
But yeah.
Your bad design ideas are now made canon.
Yep. Here, let me do fuchsia buttons. Here, let's see if I can adjust the parent, I don't know how to make this an actual border or an actual color that I can change. I was trying to make it a lime
We may
green.
have to wrap this up, as fun as it is to play around with the design tool.
Yeah, no, I get it. I wanted to make lime green borders, but that's okay. Just show off my design chops. So, anyways, I think that's everyone. So,
I think so.
Yeah. Well,
now to be clear, that's not everybody who submitted to the jam. This was only at most half of the submissions that we got for this thing. This was just the few that we were like, that we had to pick if we wanted to do a stream like this. But there are so many more submissions to check out on the forums. Link. I'm gonna link to the jam page again, just to make sure that people can find all the details about it and take a look at all the other great submissions.
Yeah, anybody who's watching the VOD later, go to handmade.network/jam, and all the information will be there for how to find all the rest of the submissions, what the jam was about, so you can get that framing if you weren't familiar. And you can also check out the rest of the website as well. So with that being said, we've been going for 2.5 hours now, so I think we can wrap it up. I really appreciate everybody coming on the stream. It was awesome to have so many people show up and check out all these awesome projects. It was great to have everyone who could come on and demo or send me a demo to play. Really appreciate it, and awesome work from everyone. So any last words from the team? Just got a notification there. Any last words from the team?
The conference.
Yes.
Very true. So anybody who is interested in handmade stuff, you should go to handmade-seattle.com. And this is, let me full screen this. This is a conference put on by the founder of Handmade Network, whose name is Abner Coimbre. He's in chat. He's one of my mods, and for Twitch. And this is an awesome conference. It's been going on for a few years. So if you're interested in like the sort of custom by hand software development that happens on Handmade Network, this is the place to go if you want to check out what people in the community are doing. So you can come here, buy a ticket, fly to Seattle in 4 weeks maybe, and hopefully we'll see you there.
You should also mention that it is a hybrid online and in-person event. Abner has put in a lot of work to make the conference a really solid experience for both in-person attendees and remote attendees. You can watch the whole conference online for free, but if you pay for an inexpensive ticket, you will get access to an official conference chat server, which is where you do Q&A with the speakers. And in general, you support Abner's amazing work putting this conference on every year. So, and I also should mention, since Phil is in here, the PH test, he is doing a bunch of AV for the event as well. So great to have him stepping up to do that stuff and helping put on what is going to be, a challenging, but I think incredibly important and impressive conference. So.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So come here, buy an online ticket, buy a physical ticket, whatever you can make. And yeah, hope to see people participate. Handmade Seattle is really, really great. So with that being said, anything else? Am I missing more things?
Nobody else has anything to say. I'd just like to thank everybody again for participating in the jam, for making all of this effort, worth our while. It's amazing to see like how well people responded to this, all the amazing stuff that people did, all the really interesting ideas. And I really hope that a lot of the people who made a project for this year's jam choose to keep it going. I mean, that's in many ways the reason that we put this on, was just to help foster the creation of new ideas, new projects that will like really make a difference and help to change the face of the software that we use, the face of software in general. So thank you again to everybody. I look forward to doing another one in the future. I think it's safe to say that we're going to be happy to run another jam at some point. So
absolutely. Yeah. Need some recovery time. But
yes, we do, as we do after any jam, but right. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and Abner says as well in the chat, there's still some time to prepare a conference demo or two. So, yeah, you might see these same jam projects that we got to showcase today, maybe make an appearance at Handmade Seattle, maybe in a more developed form. We'll see. Yeah, super cool. Abner's doing great work. So, yeah, check out Handmade Seattle. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the jam and coming to check out the stream. It's been awesome. So, with that being said, I think we can wrap up now. And thank you, everyone. I will shut the stream off, and we can talk to you on the Handmade Network forums or Discord. So go to handmade.network if you're curious or want to chat more, and we will see you there. So thanks, everyone, and see you later.
Bye.